God. Oh my God. No. Take this motherfucker!
The far-left group, Antifa, strikes again.
Hello everyone, my name is Byron Heward, and I'm a survivor of a hate crime committed against me by 5 men 10 years ago. One of them, a future member of the Proud Boys hate group that calls itself a fraternity. In order to find out more about who the Proud Boys are and how their organization works, you have to go back to the beginning. My story begins in Montclair, New Jersey in 2009, where I was a victim of a hate crime committed by a future member of the Proud Boys by the name of Paul Rurhen, aka Paul Basile, who now works as director of programming and media for the Proud Boys. Him, along with 4 other individuals, some who have been identified, some who have not been identified. Those who were identified as my attackers were Daniel J. Michalek, Jack Sherwood, who was the manager, Mike Lambrugo, My story begins nearly 10 years ago in the town of Montclair, New Jersey. At the time, I had been living in the town for over 12 years. It was a close-knit community, middle class, course, every town has its dark sides and bad areas, but for the most part, I had never had any trouble in the town up until this point. It was a town where everybody knew your name. We'd all grown up with each other. The local police department knew everybody. At the time, most of the cops had resided in Montclair, and over the years they had come to know everybody, come to know the locals, the regulars, the good and the bad. I had myself had known a few of the cops, and of course over the years a lot of them had left, but it was a community where everybody knew each other, where everybody looked after each other. Sadly, in this case, things were very different. The story began at a place called Michalek Rose, located at 10 Park Street in Montclair, New Jersey, off of Bloomfield Avenue. I had come to know Michalek Rose from its former owner, Dominic, who had owned the restaurant years ago. At around, I would say, the mid-2000s, he had sold the restaurant, and the restaurant subsequently changed through different hands until eventually it was acquired in the late 2000s, I would say around 2007 or 2008, by M. Juarez, Inc., known as the Juarez family. And, of course, they had hired Jack Sherwood as the manager to manage and oversee the employees there. In the past, when I was a teenager, Michalek Rose was a place to go, and they used to have their annual Cinco de Mayo band there. They used to have their music festival there. People would go there to dance and party. It was like a community festival. And at the time, Dominic had made it a fun place to go. And that's how I remember it. I remember it as a happy place.
Si te quieres poner pico divertir, cómprame un cucuruchito de maní. Cuando la calle son de estar, casera de mi corazón, el manicero entona su terror, y si la niña escucha su cantar, saltaron de su balcón. Esta noche no voy a poder dormir sin comerme un cucurucho de maní. A mí también.
5 de Mayo, about 289 years ago, in the town of Puebla, Mexico, the Mexicans threw out the French. They tried to take over their land. So today's the Independence Day for Mexico. ¡Viva México! ¡Viva México!
Oh, no me mires más. En mi paraíso no hay sinceridad. Cuando quiero, quiero de verdad. Háblame de amor. Oh, no me mires.
It was a typical Tuesday night. Cinco de Mayo is usually a bar holiday. Not a lot of people are going to be out because it was a work night. So a lot of people had to be at work in the morning. When I was in the place, I just noticed there had to be at least 45 people in there. My first contact with Basil was when I was walking around socializing with people. I ran to him and I introduced myself. And I just noticed that the place had gone under renovation. I said, wow, the place has changed a lot. was the last time I was here. And then I went into how I knew the place from its previous owner. What I noticed about Paul Basile, and at the time who I didn't know his name, was Michalek, was they gave me a dirty look, they were evasive, they didn't seem really interested in what I was saying. And I just went on about my business. It was just typical hello and goodbye, and 2-minute conversation. I could say about 15 minutes into it, maybe 20 minutes, 40 minutes into me being there, I remember I was talking to a couple of gentlemen. We were having a general conversation. And then one of the waiters comes up and says to me, "Hey man, you just gotta leave." I'm like, "Excuse me, is there a problem?" "You just gotta leave, man." I'm like, "Is there a problem? Am I causing trouble?" He says, "You just gotta leave, man." And so at that point, I didn't want to start an argument, and I just said to myself, obviously these guys have got a chip on their shoulder. I could tell by the atmosphere. Their mood was evasive. They did not make the place a friendly environment. I could just sense the hostility in their eyes, their facial expressions, and their body language. It seemed to me like they were... something obviously wasn't right, so I said, okay. I asked the gentleman a straightforward question. I said, "I'm a customer patronizing your establishment. Why are you asking me to leave?" He said, "Just gotta go, man. Just gotta go. If this guy wants to be hostile with me, fine, I'll just leave. I don't have to patronize this place." So I left the establishment, and as I was leaving the establishment, Michalek and Paul Basile put their arms around me, and they forcibly escorted me out of the restaurant. I'm like, "Take your hands off me." And I asked them a direct question. "What the hell is your problem?" "You just gotta go, man." I'm like, "Okay, you want to play that way? I'll go somewhere else. Good day." And that was the end of it. And I left the place with a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't know what to think of it. I just took it as the guys were having a bad day, and obviously something wasn't right. But it didn't stop there. Looking back at it, I could tell it was clearly a case of racial profiling. The fact is they had singled me out of everyone in there. Most of the customers were Caucasian, except for a handful of minorities. What struck me the most was the fact that why in the world would they be so hostile to someone who's done absolutely nothing? I walked in the restaurant, and I remember seeing Jack Sherwood in the restaurant. He says, "Good evening, sir." He's like, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Hi, my name is Byron Heward. I want to talk to you about an incident that occurred earlier today about 2 employees who were harassing me today." Like, what's going on? Like, why are they doing this? He then transformed, gave me a dirty look, and then started shouting, yelling, and cursing at me. I was confused. I didn't even know what the hell was going on. I just remember seeing a female hostess there, a couple other employees, and then of course I saw Michalek and Paul Basile coming out of the back. And then they all ganged up on me, 5 people, including Jack Sherwood. And then Jack said to me, "I don't want to see your stinking face in my restaurant again." And then they pushed me out of the restaurant forcibly into the street, onto the sidewalk, and then they started punching me and attacking me. As I was being attacked by my attackers, I was called numerous racial slurs. I was called nigger, they called me a faggot, they called me a queer, and numerous other names I cannot repeat. Michalek came in, started punching me in the face. He knocked off my glasses. I was just trying to defend myself. It was 5 people multiple punches to the head, kicking me and punching me all over my body. This was a fight of survival at this point. It had turned from a peaceful situation, then mutated and escalated into a horrendous situation where I have to defend myself and fight for my life to get away from these people. I just remember him punching me blocking his hits, me fighting back as best as I could. 5 people ganged up me. What could one single human do? And as the fight was going on, I would say about 2 or 3 minutes in, that's when Dave Kennard stepped in and broke up the fight. I was wounded. I was injured. I thought, this is it. This is where my life ends. Basile had put me in a chokehold, preventing me from escaping. And these people were just continuing to kick me and punch me and attempt to incapacitate me or kill me in their attempt to stop me from calling 911 and to cover up the incident. At that point, when I was on the ground being kicked and punched on the head and all over my body, my clothing ripped, I truly thought I was going to die that night. But this is it. As I was on the ground being kicked and punched, and Basile was suffocating me, putting me in a chokehold, preventing me from escaping, as these people were kicking and punching me with the intention of incapacitating me, killing me, and covering up the incident. The only thing going on through my mind was to survive, to save my life. So I bit into Basile's wrist as hard as I could until the blood gushed out of it, and I broke free from his grip. Picked up my phone. I had only one sandal on. My glasses were on the ground. I picked them up and I ran for my life down Park Street, where I could call 911. As I was on the phone with the 911 operator, 2 minutes into the call, a police car showed up, and thankfully help has arrived. So I waved the car down and flagged him, opened the door. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "These people are trying to kill me. I've been assaulted by 5 men. These people are trying to kill me and murder me. Please help me." He drove up to the restaurant where Basile and Danny had been left as decoys while the rest of the guys had fled into the street away from the cops. At the time, I didn't know what the hell was going on. All I know is that they were talking to Basile. Basile was showing him the injury from me having to bite him and get free from his grip. Danny was there talking to them. And the cop comes back, asks me some questions. I told him exactly what happened. And to the right, I also saw another police officer show up. And then to the left, I saw another officer interviewing Dave, the witness. And at that moment, I'm thinking, okay, these guys are going to get arrested, and I'm going to go to the hospital, and I'm just going to have to go to police and give a statement. But to my shock and horror, it was the exact opposite. Officer Michalek had come back and said, "You're under arrest for assault." And I was like, "What?" Put my hands behind my back and forcibly handcuffed me. And then he drove away. And I asked him, "Why are you doing this? I'm the victim here. What is going on here?" He's like, "I told you what's going on. You're under arrest." I said, "I'm the victim here. I'm the one that these people tried to kill." And I just, at the time, I couldn't believe what was happening. I'm thinking, what in God's name is going on? I arrived at the police station. They processed me. They put me in a holding cell. Officer Mickens took off my glasses. I wasn't able to see. I was in a holding cell for 4 hours without any water, without any food, without any medical care, in pain, aching. These people didn't even take a statement from me. They didn't read me my Miranda rights. They violated my habeas corpus rights, my civil rights, my human rights, and my civil liberties. In their eyes, it was an open and shut case. They asked me basic questions if I was drinking, under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And that was it. Around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was released to my parents at the residence I lived at the time. I told them what had happened, and they were horrified, mortified at what happened. They gave me a paper saying I had been charged with aggravated assault, and I couldn't believe it. I'm being charged with defending myself, with saving my life from being killed that night. I then went to the hospital soon after to get checked out for my injuries, where I had 2 pairs of black eyes, multiple bruises and injuries to my head. Thankfully, no fractures and no fatal injuries. "48 hours after the incident, I remember I went to Sounds Cafe. At the time I knew the owner and one of the employees there who was an acquaintance of mine. His name was Paul Rurhen at Sounds Cafe. Unknowns to me, Paul Basile had lived above from there and worked there. I remember talking about the incident. There was another gentleman there, and he felt really bad about it at the time. It was a shock of what happened. And then, out of the blue, Basil comes out of the apartment building. He says, "Holy shit." I just gave him a dirty look. And I was like, "Oh, you." And then he says, mocking me, "How's your head? You're gonna have a big hospital bill." And then he shouts at me, "Get the fuck out of here." And I said, "I'm on a public street. I can go wherever I want." He said, "I'm calling the police." I said, "Oh, really? For doing what? What you're afraid of? Afraid of the truth?" To escape further injury from this psychopath and harm, I walked away, got on my bicycle, and I left. That was the end of it. As I rode down Bloomfield Avenue, I saw 2 police cars heading up that way, possibly to talk to him. In the aftermath of the incident, I went down to the community court and filed countercharges against him for the act of harassing me in the street and for nearly trying to kill me the night of June 12th. The case was transferred from the community court to the state court, where my charge of aggravated assault was remanded to simple assault. The second court date came. Basil was there. Jack was also there. At the time I didn't know his name, but I saw them both there. Basil said he was going to retain a private attorney, and I had my public defender there. The case was presided by Judge Frosca. And I remember with the public defender's office, I remember they were reading the police report, which I had not seen, and that the cops tried to charge me $40 for a police report at the time, which to me in itself was criminal, where they were trying to deny me the right to see what had happened, see what my charges were, which is disgusting. $40 for a piece of paper. So the case was going on, I was in the pews, and at the time I just wanted to see justice. And I wanted it to be over with. The public defender comes back to me and says, they've agreed on a mutual dismissal. I said, what's this mutual dismissal? Where your charge goes away and their charge goes away. I said, under what condition? And he convinced me to do it. I said, why don't we go to trial? He says, if we go to trial, there's no guarantee. It was basically the agreement that I go my separate way and he goes his separate way. No harm done. And that was where Judge Frosca had read the criminal history of Bazile, where he had had 2 prior arrests and an illegal weapons conviction. Me, first offense, aka first arrest, and no priors. I was lied to, I was backstabbed by people and the system that was supposed to protect me. Looking back on it, the true obstruction of justice came from the public defender's office. They're committing the true obstruction of justice by intimidating me into not going to trial and not figuring out what happened that night 10 years ago. These events made my case in 2010 to be weakened and ultimately destroyed by their abuse of the system. At the time this incident happened, I didn't know my rights. I knew nothing of the criminal justice system. I knew nothing of the legal system. I didn't know of the trial system. And here I have a public defender, aka a public pretender, who does not have my best interest. The public defender's office is usually a broken system. They're overloaded with cases. They're either trying to strike a deal with the prosecutor on a plea bargain, and they're favoring the prosecution side. In my case, I was on the receiving end of all this, where I'm trying to pursue justice. I'm trying to figure out what happened that night. Who, what, where, there, and why. Who are the individuals? Had I known better, I would have just told the public defender that I want to go to trial. Yet I was intimidated into believing, oh, if we go to trial, you could get off with a disorderly persons offense, you could be convicted and sent to prison. And I was intimidated into taking a mutual dismissal where the case was pretty much an open and shut case. Had I known any better, I would have just said, let's take it to trial, and there would have been a thorough investigation to figure out what truly happened that night. Who all the actors were there, who were all the witnesses, and who else was there who could substantiate the claims made that night from both sides. And I could prove my innocence, that I was defending myself. These were systems that were put in place to protect me. I feel that I was cheated. I was wronged. The people I thought I trusted to protect me backstabbed me. In my case, I had no prior criminal history. By doing this, they ultimately suppressed the matter and prevented a further full investigation by the justice system and any other federal authority to investigate this matter as a hate crime and not a disturbance/assault. This can happen to anyone. This is very common. And that the public pretender system, aka public defender, doesn't have your best interest. It's a broken system, and it's been like that for many years. The public defender's office didn't have my best interest. They didn't have my best interest in figuring out what happened to me, how I almost was murdered at night. I was nearly killed by these people, and I told them everything that had happened. And all they did was compromise my chances of getting fair due process and fair justice. Instead, all they had in mind was rushing me out the door. What disgusted me is that they gave this career criminal more rights than a decent person like me. These were rogue thugs in my town, in my home, who weren't even from Montclair. They were from Nutley, New Jersey. In the aftermath of the incident, I just tried to navigate through the fog of life and trying to piece my life back together to a sense of normalcy. But I wasn't going to give up the fight and my pursuit of justice. I turned to one tool to assist me in my pursuit of justice against my would-be killers. I call Facebook my saving grace because it was a tool that enabled me to get information where you would have needed a private investigator to go out and find this information. With Facebook, It was all laid out there. At the time, Facebook privacy settings were lax and primitive. And you could find out just about anything. People's addresses, phone numbers. People put it all out there for the world to see. But at that time, you could find out who liked a page on Facebook. You could click on who likes this page, and you could see it. I turned to the Mexicali Rose Facebook page they had set up. I clicked on it, and my God, lined up like a mugshot sheet, they were all there. I was able to make a positive photo ID on Dan Michalek and Jack Sherwood, and 3 other attackers I identified. I said bingo. So I went to the police department and got a copy of the police report. The cop there at the time, he was very nice. He was a sergeant. I said, how much are you? He says, don't worry about it. I walked away with the police report and looked at all the details of everything. They were greatly mistaken. I had come to the realization that Dan Michalek and Paul Basile were left there as decoys while the rest of the guys split up into the street and fled because Jack Sherwood wasn't in the police report. None of the 3 other assailants who were there were in the police report. They were the only 2 left there. And Dave Kennard was in the police report. What they had done was they were left as decoys to lie to the police and trick them into believing them. And the cop's attitude was, the hell with whatever I have to say, and the hell with whatever Dave Kennard had to say, and let's just make it an open and shut case. Five white men against 1 black man, as told by the witness. When I looked at the police report, I was able to diagnose and examine the full gravity of the situation that happened and dissect it. A gross mishandling of it, and they never designated it as a hate crime. The failure of the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, Chief Sagba of the Montclair Police Department, and the officers, their failure to designate this as a hate crime, their failure to fully investigate this matter to the fullest extent of the law, to interview witnesses, gather information, get videotape evidence to corroborate the story, their failure to do this shows how broken the system was, how corrupt it was. The town would rather give a bunch of rogue thugs, a corrupt business owner, more rights than a decent human being like myself. In May of 2010, I had filed formal criminal charges against Jack Sherwood and Dan Michalek for the crimes of assault and aggravated assault against me. Unfortunately, because so much time has passed, they could not, they didn't want to take it down to the courts downtown. I'm thinking, why is that? So they kept it in the municipal court. Another fatal mistake they made. When the first arraignment came, I remember Jack Sherwood sitting in the pews with Dan Michalek. Jack was pissed off, angry. Dan Michalek was terrified and scared. And I remember he looked at me with a terrified and worried look on his face. And I looked at him and gave him a look as, I got you now. I know where you live. I know who you are. And you're not getting away with this. We went up to the judge. They pled not guilty. They issued the next court date. I went down to the clerk's office and subpoenaed Dave Kennard to testify. At the time, he lived in Upper Montclair, New Jersey with his parents. At that point, I had only seen the first act. The finale was still to come. The finale that would never come. Because these are serious crimes. And that's what these people did. What these people did was they coerced the sole witness in the case, Dave Kennard, by intimidating him and tampering with him. How I found this out? I took a stroll down to the meat locker. Me and Dave, we weren't really friends, we were more acquaintances. But I thanked him for saving my life that day. I thought he was on my side. I learned in this case, friends, acquaintances can easily turn into enemies. They can easily turn against you at the drop of a dime. That's what happened with Dave. Prior to this, me and him were on speaking terms. And I told him that, look, I need you to help me. If worse comes to worse, I'm going to need you to summon and testify. And at that time, he had said, okay, sure, anything you need. And that was my assurance that he wasn't compromised. Second time I encountered him, after I'd subpoenaed him in 2010, that attitude had completely changed. I remember when I saw him, I said, hey Dave, how you doing? He had a blank look and a shocked look on his face to an angry and enraged look. To him screaming and yelling, saying, you subpoenaed me to the court, you have any idea what you've done? And he shouted to me, these people have roughed me up, done, you put my life in jeopardy. I don't ever want you coming back to the meat locker again. And he called me a bunch of vile and disgusting names. I'm thinking, what in God's name did these people do to him? And I asked him, what did these people do? And he just wasn't a mentally unstable, screaming and shouting. I just did my best to get away from it. I was in the middle of the street. He was shouting and yelling to the top of his lungs. It's one of the most horrible things I'd seen. That a human being had been reduced to that. And these people had intimidated him and done something to him to get him to crack. And I said to myself, we have a problem. We've got a serious problem. Next day I went to the police to tell them that this man had been compromised. And that there had been witness tampering going on. And the cops attitude is, we can't do nothing unless he says something. I said, what? I was there last night. I'm telling you what happened. This man was screaming and yelling. And this man claims these people roughed him up. You're not going to investigate? That's tampering with a witness. And the cop's like, there's nothing we can do. I knew I had a serious problem. I had a compromised witness, and I had a case that was severely compromised. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do about it. The day of the trial came, we all went in. Any community court, you have to wait your turn. They waited till we were the last people to go up to the judge, until everybody had left. I remember the atmosphere of the community court. Jack and Danny had gone in there scoffing and laughing, all cocky. Hell, even Danny was chatting up one of the detectives there in the lobby. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on? It was ridiculous. And Dave was in there all pissed off and angry with his father there all worried and terrified. I was just sitting there because I said, I'm here to finish this. So we went up to the judge. The judge had asked us what happened. I told him what happened. That, you know, from the evidence I had gathered through Facebook and evidence that I discovered of what had happened. I told him what these people did and everything that had happened. I wanted to show him the police report, the evidence, and he refused to take a look at it. He refused to take a look at the police report. He refused to take a look at my medical bills or any of the photographs of my injuries. And it was just like, you know, and he gave both of us a chance to speak. Jack Sherwood went up to speak saying that this guy had come into my restaurant. He's aggressive, hostile, and pretty much lied about everything, saying that we were just defending ourselves, and he had been coming here stealing beers and harassing women, and completely falsified the incident. Completely. Gave him a bogus story. Danny Michalek never spoke. So pretty much Jack spoke for him, but he never said a word. I summoned Dave. After I cross-examined Jack Sherwood with all the questions that he evaded and didn't answer correctly, Dave went up and completely falsified his testimony in the police report. I said, that's not what it says here in the police report. He claims I can't identify anyone. I didn't see hardly anything. I can't identify anybody. I said, you can't identify the men? I said, here in the police report, that's not what it says in the police report. He refused to answer any of the questions. He didn't answer them properly. And he pretty much acted like nothing happened. Like I couldn't get a good look at the guys. I can't really identify them. When he clearly saw them in plain view that night. Contradictory what he said to the police that night. Not even any of the officers were summoned to testify of what they had saw that day. So with the witness compromised and not willing to cooperate, I said, he sat down and the judge said, you know, I deem Mr. Hewer as the aggressor and I find the defendants not guilty. You don't have to pay any court fees. Case closed. I said, what? Without even taking a look at any of the evidence, he just closed the case like that. I said, wow. What a bunch of bullshit. A complete spit in the face to justice. I left the court first. I walked outside. I got across the street. When I was across the street, I saw Jack and Danny there walking out of the building laughing. Dave was there, and Jack shook his hand. And I just shook my head in disbelief because I couldn't believe what was happening. That these people exploited every single loophole in the system to get away with attempted murder. And that's what they did. Yes, the criminal case was over, but I did not give up. I said, I'm not giving up. In a different scenario, let's just say if Paul Bazile, Danny Michalek, and Jack Sherwood and the other attackers had killed me. Let's just say if they decided to crack my skull open, it would have been a murder investigation, but it would have probably been a cold case. Who knows what would have happened? These people could have killed me. They could have dumped my body somewhere. I could have been missing, presumed dead, never found. All these questions fill my mind of what could have happened, where I would be missing and presumed dead. Or it could have been a case where they would have killed me and tried to cover up why they killed me. They could have planted a weapon on me. Of course, what would have happened was my mom and dad would have gotten a phone call from the police saying that they need to come there and identify a body. And that body would have been me. And then my mother and father would have to task the brutal and unspeakable hardship, anguish, and pain of having to bury their first son. No parent ever wants to get that phone call. No family member wants to get that phone call that their son has been murdered, and that their child is not coming home that night. No parent ever wants to receive that. That is a parent's worst nightmare. To receive the phone call that their son or daughter is not coming home that night. That's what almost happened to my mother and father. It was a miracle of God that I made it back alive, and that I survived and lived to tell about what happened to me. Of all the lawyers I talked to, I asked them this question and they couldn't give me a straight face and answer me. I've asked cops this question and they couldn't give me a straight answer. How would you feel if you had to bury your child? How would you feel if these individuals had attacked your child and nearly murdered them or killed them? What would you do to them? How would you react? They all said the same thing. They would be outraged, angry, saddened, and they would want justice. Some of them couldn't even give me a straight answer. They were too cowardly to tell me the truth. But they know the truth. My question to the Michalek family is, what would be your reaction if the police gave you a phone call and called you in to identify a body, and it happened to be one of your sons? What would you want to do to the person who killed your son? What would you want to do to the person who almost killed your son? How would you feel if one of your family members was brutally beaten by someone? You would want justice, right? You would want revenge. You would surely want to avenge them. You would do everything in your power to want to get justice for what these people did to them. Would you not? It goes back to the saying, what kind of person is Stephen Michalek? What kind of person is he? Supposedly a man of God who worked at the New York Archdiocese for many years. What kind of man is he to raise a son that doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear? A man who was willing to murder a man in cold blood over nothing. Because let's turn things around. If I had done the same thing to his son, he would want my head chopped off. He would want me thrown under the jail. He would do everything in his power to want to destroy me for what I did to him. The truth is, his son got away with a horrible crime. His son abused the system. They both got their hands dirty, and all they've done is take and take and take. In February of 2011, with the help of a friend and another friend who was a law school student, we had drafted and constructed a pro se civil suit against the defendants and the restaurant. This whole case, this whole incident was like something out of the Twilight Zone. It could not be explained logically because there was a ton of different holes in it. And that the matter had been so compromised, it had just been like, it was beyond repair. But I had to try to make sense out of something that did not make any sense. Throughout this entire investigation, from 2009 through 2012, I had to be my own paralegal, investigator, detective. I had to single-handedly run this evil organization out of town myself, without the help of the police, without the help of the town council, or the mayor, Without the help of the government, they did absolutely nothing. They didn't even do half the work I did. I had to dig through Mr. Sherwood's finances, his tax records, tax liens I discovered, tax liens on the restaurant. I discovered these people were in debt, and they were having money problems. "2011 was a changing point. It was where new information was coming up forward. Michalek Rose wasn't faring so well. I had discovered that Dan Michalek's father, Stephen Michalek, had been doing business with Jack Sherwood. One of the striking revelations came from a most unlikely source, a sympathizer who I shall not name. I was walking in Montclair and he had come up to me. He knew who I was, and he had told me that he knows Basile, and he wanted to help me. He had also revealed to me the biggest bombshell, that the Montclair Police Department had been dining there on the house. So I said, that's a bribe. So Jack was bribing the police with free meals in exchange for getting cozy with them and favors. I said, my. So our police department, Montclair's finest, was bribed by burritos, nachos, enchiladas, and guacamole. That was the price of my life. Free food on the house from Michalek Rose. He then went on to reveal to me that the restaurant employees were working off the books, and that Basile had been in a feud with Jack Sherwood. The gravity of the situation really, him telling me all these things and how they bragged about intimidating Dave, roughing him up, and doing this really struck me. I said, wow. Well, I asked him, how do you know all this? He says, because Basile told me, and I know this. And it's not fair what these people did to you. I said, you're absolutely right. I thank you for this information. Facebook was a valuable tool in this conflict. Facebook, I call the platform that shortened the conflict by 5 years. When I looked on the Michalek Rose Facebook page, they posted these lewd videos, them screwing around. Not to mention Basile used it as a public platform to humiliate me with a comment, "Why doesn't Byron come by and have a bite?" Fast forward to later that year, the rest of Michalek Rose had been shut down for tax evasion by the New Jersey state government. And guess who had to be there to witness the whole thing as well? The Montclair Police Department. With the restaurant padlocked, I had another obstacle. Finding out how do I go after these people and how do I collect. A couple months after the shutdown of the restaurant, I get a call from the most unlikely of people. A lawyer representing Michalek Rose. It was about a 20-minute phone call. He said, "You had filed a lawsuit." He says, "I read your complaint and I want to file an answer. And you currently have a default." This lawyer tried to intimidate me. He tried to say, "I can either be your best friend or your worst enemy." I said, "You are neither." I said, "You and your clients have caused me a lot of grief and hell over this for the past couple of years. And I demand justice." And I told him that we're either going to settle this or this is going to continue to go on. Take your pick. And he just mockingly said, "Just send me a fax of the default and we will file an answer." I said, "Okay." I sent the fax to the law office. I never got a reply. I couldn't get him on the charge of selling liquor without a license or for the other illegal things they were doing. The only thing they got shut down for was tax evasion and for not paying their rent. That's what ultimately got them evicted and shuttered for good. Justice? Yes, but not closure. The restaurant was destroyed, but the assailants were still on the loose. In 2013, a proof hearing was called by Judge Francine Schott, who had presided over the civil case. it had winded down to 2 defendants. Paul Basile could not be served because he never responded to the lawsuit, and he dodged every single attempt to serve. He was deemed unable to serve because he ran like a coward in the face of justice. During the proof hearing, I showed the judge my medical bills, photographs of my injuries, the police report, and everything that had happened, and all the evidence I had. The judge had issued a default judgment against Dan Michalek and Jack Sherwood for $10,000 each. Closure? Somewhat it was, but not full closure. Enforcing a default judgment is very difficult. It was a stalemate. In the aftermath of the incident, Jack Sherwood had fled to San Francisco. Dan Michalek had worked at many different jobs to try to evade the judgment, working off the books in multiple restaurants in different places. Paul Basile and everybody else had separated. In mid-2018, I had discovered from a friend who happened to be friends with Basile from a rave party these disgusting posts he had made about me on his Facebook page. He told me that they were these videos of me from years ago. I'm thinking, videos from years ago? When I went up on Basile's Facebook page, I had discovered that he had taken videos from my old YouTube channel of me performing at Serendipity Cafe and me singing Japanese karaoke at an anime convention in 2009 and posted them on his page, openly ridiculing me. I was ridiculed by his friends, and Paul Rurhen, whom I thought was my friend, was turned against me. 8 years after Michalek's fall, the enemy still lingers and continues to celebrate their escape from justice and get a laugh by making fun of me, the victim, behind my back, publicly. I was disgusted. I said, what in God's name? What I couldn't believe is that this had been going on from 2014 to recently in 2017, where he writes, "Private eyes are watching you, buddy, Wolfpack for life." A threat. And I said to myself, what is going on? And he writes creepily in the video, Richard Clark recommended this video. I'm like, who is that? Who is Richard Clark? Then the next one was, you want to see batshit insane? This is the guy who bit me. What's up, Byron? Wolfpack for life. Dan Michalek, in the 2014 post, openly said Paulie was the hero that night, lest we forget. And that he would use this as an open channel to humiliate me. It showed how cowardice and how cowardly they were. So quick and easy to hide behind a computer screen and make fun of someone. But yet he didn't have the guts to look at me in the eye and face me in a house of justice. Instead they gotta hide, ridiculing me on the internet behind my back, thinking I wouldn't find out. Fortunately, in Basile's case, he kept it public. And I saw everything. And I have copies of everything. I had written to Facebook to try to, in my attempt to get them taken down. At first, Facebook didn't take them down. In late 2018, Facebook finally took down Basile's profile along with those disgusting posts about me. Mr. Bazile is a strong man behind a keyboard, but he doesn't have 1/10 the guts to face anybody face to face. Instead, he had to hide behind a keyboard and ridicule me with these videos made in 2009 of something so innocent. What are you gonna get from that? What are you gonna... I just shake my head. I'm like, it's G-rated compared to the stuff you've done. What's so contradictory in this case is that Dan Michalek and Basile have called me numerous names such as faggot, queer, but yet you don't practice what you preach. And the photographs and the videos speak otherwise of your actions and your behavior. In this one photograph, Dan Michalek is seen here on his wedding day grabbing another man's genitals. In this music video that Paul Basile made back in 2009 and dressed in drag. Contradictory to what the white supremacists and the Proud Boys, which hate homosexuals to every fiber of their existence. Here we see them doing the exact opposite. They don't practice what they preach. I wonder what their white supremacist and Proud Boy brethren would think of these videos. I can only imagine. Jack Sherwood, Paul Rurhen, aka Paul Basile, Daniel J. Michalek, and all the people whom I've identified in the attack are a menace to society. They are a danger to the public, and they could go off at any moment. Paul Basile being one of the more dangerous of them, being the fact that he possesses automatic weapons, he possesses numerous types of other weapons, such as knives, and God knows how much boxes of ammunition he has. Who's to say he won't wake up one day and commit a mass shooting? Who's to say he won't seriously hurt another individual or kill that person? The only time we will know when this man is capable of committing the unthinkable is when he does. Mr. Basile, as seen in this photograph here, is in possession of a automatic rifle with an extended capacity clip, both of which are illegal in the state of New Jersey. He resides in East Orange, New Jersey, in the vicinity of a school zone. A demented individual like this who attends anti-Sharia rallies and who is a bigot and a devout racist has no place in the community of East Orange, New Jersey. He comes in your town, he takes up residency to hide his cover because it's the last place anyone would expect to find him. To the people of East Orange, how do you feel knowing that your town has a member of a white nationalist hate group in your community, walking amongst your children, patronizing in your stores? We have seen numerous people being arrested for wannabes, but yet we have those who slip through the cracks of the system. The failure of the law enforcement is that they let a criminal like Paul Bazile walk the streets free, only for him to become a member of a hate group like the Proud Boys and to amass an arsenal of weapons so he could strike and possibly kill anyone who gets in his way. Nobody seems to be doing anything about it. The Essex County Prosecutor's Office has done nothing about it. The East Orange Police Department has done nothing about it. This man has posted numerous red flags on his social media pages, yet no one wants to do anything. And that's what's going to get somebody killed, people. As long as law enforcement continues to turn a blind eye, more people will get hurt or die as a result of their actions. It's up to us to call them out on their mistakes and to let them know the real threats out there. Because people like Paul Rurhen, the Proud Boys, and all their members, they are the true enemy of the people. They are destroyers of life and peace. And it is up to us to stop them at whatever cost. You're probably all wondering, who are the Proud Boys?
These social justice warriors!
Fuck them!
These liberals!
Fuck them!
How much would you give to come back to this day and unanonymously say, I am a proud Western chauvinist who refuses to apologize for creating the modern world?
I'm a Western chauvinist, and I refuse to apologize for creating a modern world.
I'm a proud Western chauvinist.
And I refuse to apologize.
I refuse to apologize
For creating a modern world.
for creating a modern world.
All right, boys, on 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, cross the 23. We need 4. Raise the bread. 5.
The people who you see of color are tokens. They are smokescreens to mask the true identity of who they are. In reality, they are a hate group. They are misogynistic, they are racist, they are bigoted, they are extremist, and they are pro-Trump. One question you probably ask yourself is, what in the world, why would a minority want to join a group like the Proud Boys? You ask yourself, what empowers minorities to join these white nationalist hate groups? I can tell you why. These people somehow feel empowered. They feel that by doing this, they are getting something out of it. And they are manipulated and indoctrinated by these people thinking, oh, by joining our side, we're the winning team. We've got hot chicks, we go to these clubs and stuff. When you're on the winning side, and they trick them into thinking they are on this great winning side when they're really not. What empowers them? Or do they have the same type of feeling as this certain celebrity who kneeled before our leader, President Trump, in a very undignified fashion?
It was something about when I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. You made a Superman. That's my favorite superhero. And you made a Superman cape for me also as a guy that looks up to you, looks up to Ralph Lauren, looks up to American industry guys. Non-political, no bullshit. Put the beep on it, however you want to do it. 5 seconds delay. You know I love you. Did I?
I don't want to put you in that spot. But.
No, I'm standing in that spot. I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here. I love this guy right here.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Come here. Yeah. That's really nice.
As you can see before, there is a pro-Trump group here called the Proud Boys. We asked them for comment earlier, but they said on their national policy is they do not talk to the media.
A man is not finished when he is defeated. He is only finished when he quits. Richard Nixon. God bless you.
Uhuru.
My question is that if they had so much evidence on me, if they are so justifiably right, where's your evidence? I'm still waiting for the videotape. I'm still waiting for the incident reports, which you never showed. Then there's nothing because it doesn't exist. They all chose to run like cowards in the face of justice and in the face of their enemy. They ran because they didn't have 1/10 the guts I had. I can tell you right now that this whole thing was beyond stupidity. Had these people just left me alone, let me live and let be, and not harass me, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. All this that you see wouldn't exist. I've never seen anything like this. People can somehow make the excuse, oh, we didn't know. It was out there. I have nothing to gain from lying about this. However, the adversaries, as we see, they're the ones who are going to try to tell you these sugar-coated statements and try to make something that's out of nothing. They're going to continue to lie, and they're going to continue to try to fool people into believing them. If any of you has been victimized by any of these people, contact me. I will interview you, and we'll put the word out on the street. And you can share your story with the world just like I have with mine. For those who do not wish to fight, you can run and hide, but it comes with consequences. For any victims of these people who are out there, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to fear. To the Proud Boys and these individuals, your days are numbered.